Hey there. Just every once in a while, I have to do a reminder because I get new subs and stuff. But in addition to all the messages I do uh, books, and they are free with a suggested donation. Right now I'm working on one about God's discipline in grace, and one of the reasons why some Christians get stuck is because their fear of God keeps him from being able to really touch them deeply and bring them through things to bring them to deeper experience of him. And we have to realize that discipline is fully positive. It's out of love and it's for our good. It's not always pleasant, but it always bears good fruit. And we don't let God touch us. See, discipline eventually requires that you acknowledge something, that you see something, that you understand something about how God is handling you. And that is where intimacy with the Lord comes from. Uh, that we start to recognize his hand in our life. And it's not just things happening to us. So many people think, well, the devil attacked me and I'm under attack. Me too. We always at first interpret it as I'm under attack. Uh, I am going through something here that I need prayer. And when we get settled in faith, eventually the Lord can talk to us about it. But first he has to wait our hysteria out. Like this whole thing about, I just went through like a week of kind of struggling with the Lord, like, where are you kind of thing, even though I'm teaching about how much access we have to him. And I was having a hard time laying hold of him by faith. And the whole thing was a discipline, a training about my weakness and how much I need him. But there's all kinds of things he teaches us. No, he's not teaching you how to be humble by throwing something at you. Or, a lot of people, times we say, well, I asked God to show me how to be patient. For the next 7 years, my life was terrible, and now I'm much more patient. No, that's not it. Because God's not interested in teaching you how to have a virtue. He's teaching you Christ, who is your virtue. And we don't know how to, it's not like we gain a virtue from him that we now know how to exercise. That's not walking in the Spirit. No, what he wants to teach us is to learn to depend on him moment by moment and learn to come to him freely. But also, in his discipline, he generates seasons to make us hungry and thirsty for him and to bring us into fullness. And he sometimes we're brought into affliction and then into comfort. And then we find out that the comfort was not for us, but for somebody else. And one thing, like last night, I was having a hard time laying hold of the Lord. And really, it was a struggle. And it really reminded me of some of the conversations I've had with sons on my wall this last week who've said, I can't get the condemnation off. I can't, no matter what I seem to say, it's like, I'm not even sure I'm saved. Now, it wasn't that bad, but that's what I was going through, and the Lord showed me it was weakness, and he wanted me to speak to it, and when I spoke to it, it all rolled off. So that message released me. Okay, that was his discipline. He was bringing me through something, and see, I can recognize that because I've come to know him, whereas in the past, years ago, that whole thing would have been wasted on me because I wouldn't have even had the capacity to realize that the Lord is putting me in a situation so that I could speak in a certain way for others. Everything was about me, and that comes from not really knowing the Lord deeply, not being able to cooperate with him because he hasn't been able to discipline us, and usually the reason he can't is because we are under condemnation and we interpret everything in the light of the self, and we don't understand what he's doing or what he wants. So, discipline is really important in grace. It's how we grow to know the Lord. He trains us. He trains our senses to know his dealing in our life and to interpret it properly. That's what discipline's for. And yes, it also makes us partaker of his holiness because it brings us to a sense of our need, which causes us to cry out to him. And if we hunger and thirst for righteousness, we'll be filled, and that righteousness is Christ, and he is living water. And that living water is our holiness. Him dispensing himself is your holiness, not anything you ever have in yourself. So that book is going to be important. I think it's going to be about 7 chapters. Not a huge burdensome read, but it's taking me some time to put it together. And I'm typing up 1 John messages. But recently, we've been experimenting with audiobooks. Michelle Finch has been reading the books I finish. And she did Philippians, Christ is our satisfaction and salvation, and Colossians, how God makes Christ everything to us. You know, God does want Christ to be everything to us, but the way he does it is not to demand that you submit to him and make him your Lord, but to open up your eyes to see a vision of who Christ is. And it's as he reveals him to you that you begin to walk worthily of him unto all pleasing, because you're filled with the knowledge of his will. And his will is that Christ is everything. And it's all the knowledge of his will is based on your understanding of what he's accomplishing in Christ and what he's doing. So Colossians lays out this huge vision. And that's how God makes Christ, how you grow in all things into him who is the head. You know, he heads you up in Christ through vision and knowledge. So these are really important books. And I got one on Hebrews and Romans and a couple others in there. And they're free. You can go to my website, Christians Need the Gospel, go to the shop, go to books, and there's a bunch in there. Donations are appreciated because of the time spent. Some people get mad because I have the audacity to sell things, you know. Well, I don't really sell them. It is free. And that's not a ruse. Believe me, I don't make enough money from these things to justify doing it if I was in it for the money. I'm not even making minimum wage when it's all said and done. I spend hundreds of hours typing, editing, you know, and at most I sell maybe, I think Hebrews maybe I sold 100 copies of that, or 100 people downloaded it. Colossians maybe 30, Romans maybe 25, you know, and most people take it for free. But there are people who make up the difference and generously give as the Lord leads. And it works out to about what, you know, a good part-time job would work out some months. And it's not consistent. And it's not an income stream. And I just have to put that out there. You know, the people who accuse this way, they say, well, the gospel should be free, you know. And I just know that you must not be a very well-read person. Because I treasure books, and my whole library downstairs is full of books that I've read that I had to buy. And I don't know if people don't do that anymore or what, but, you know, it costs time and money to produce things. And yes, the gospel's free, but the worker's worthy of his hire. And Paul said, no one goes to war and buys his own armor, you know. I'm fighting, I'm doing what I can to put the word out as much as possible. And I feel like the Lord is speaking things today that I don't feel like it. I have not read the things that God is opening up from the words in commentaries. There's definitely a fresh speaking right now. So I try to publish it, you know. And these are things you can share with people who don't listen to YouTube. You know, here's a good book. Some messages on, you know, rest or discipline or God's eternal purpose or the new covenant or Romans, you know. And they're all with a singular focus of getting our conscience free from fear so that we can stand boldly in God's presence and he can deal with us. That's my whole thing. So I just wanted to put that reminder out here that those resources are available. If you're looking for something to read or listen to, they're there. All right, take care.